Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. People, what's going on out here? It's getting out of control. It's getting out of control. So, on this channel, we like to have conversations. Can't sit here and accuse somebody of using PEDs or using anything to give them a competitive advantage in the boxing ring unless you have proof. But you can always have a conversation. Now, I've been talking about Victor Conte, Heredia, Usman Sajjad, Alex Ariza. I've been talking about different boxers who have these guys in their camps and using them as strength and conditioning coaches I've had this channel a little over a year, ever since I started this channel, right? So it's nothing new for me to talk about it. I see other channels are talking about, in particular, Victor Conte. And it almost sounds like maybe some of my stuff is being plagiarized, right? But one thing for sure did not and does not come from my videos is sitting here saying there's proof of something. Now, I'm going to tell you this right here, right? I'm okay with they're saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. I truly am. But when they're out here saying that Terence Crawford is using the snack products and there's a possibility that Terence Crawford was on something that made it impossible for Errol Spence to win that fight. Terence Crawford looked too sharp. He looked too strong. When has he ever looked that strong? When has Errol Spence ever looked that bad? There's got to be something going on with Terence Crawford and snack. And Victor Conte knows just how to skirt VADA, how to skirt all the drug testing. And as a result, Terence Crawford was able to get in the ring and do the business against Errol Spence and make Errol Spence look like he just didn't belong in the ring with him. That is crazy to me. Crazy. So my thing is, Victor Conte used Terence Crawford to whack Errol Spence, huh? Crawford was the weapon that Conte used. And he loaded that weapon with a bunch of snack products, right? And then he went and he unloaded on Errol Spence in the ring with his weapon, Terence Crawford. Yo, if you don't like Terence Crawford, fine. If Errol Spence is your favorite fighter, fine. But don't come out here creating these BS narratives that Terence Crawford possibly cheated. Now, what I will say is I think any fighter who uses any of those aforementioned names, the Heredia, Ariza, Usman Sajjad, Victor Conte, I do think those four guys can put together a very effective cocktail. I'm the one that came up with the cocktail talk. Nobody else started talking cocktail talk. I'm the one who started that. So now I hear people out here talking about the Conte cocktail. That's my stuff, man. But it's cool. You know what I mean? This is YouTube. They can say what they want. But I started that, man. So the fact that they're out here saying that this guy Crawford is using it, and that's why he beat Spence. Well, hey, some people said Spence was on the cocktail. Some people say Spence has been taking the cocktail his whole career. And just for the Terence Crawford fight, that Errol Spence wasn't on the cocktail because of the stringent testing there in Nevada, he wasn't able to get away with it. So the reason Spence looked less than ordinary against Terence Crawford in that undisputed distinction is because Errol Spence didn't have any cocktails in his system for the first time. Now, there's a flip coin to this. You can easily attack Crawford. You can easily attack Spence. But there's no proof of any of that. Now, what I will say is, back in April of 22, right? Spence and Conte got into it. For those of you who didn't know, he got into it. We know Conte, man, is the old scandal branded former of Balco. Now, it was all as a result of Spence and Ugas and them about to fight, and then Conte coming out here and starting to ask a bunch of questions about whether there's going to be VADA testing present for that welterweight unification, because Conte couldn't find any evidence that there was going to be testing, which to me is none of Conte's business. Because in case y'all didn't know, Ugas uses Heredia, Angel Heredia, and has always used him for multiple fights. In case y'all were wondering, how did Ugas hang with Sean Porter the way he did? Because people keep talking about, oh, that's how come Crawford makes Sean Porter look like that. Well, hell, Ugas made Sean Porter look pretty ordinary too, didn't he? But he had Heredia in his corner. But no one's talking about that. Okay? Also, Heredia was in the corner of Ugas, my understanding, when he fought Spence. And Spence beat Ugas down. So what I'm getting at is, I'm not so sure this thing about these Contes, Arizas, Usman Sajads, and Heredias. I don't think that argument carries much weight when it comes to Errol Spence and someone having an unfair advantage and these cocktails making a difference. But bottom line is, if you didn't know, Conte spent 4 months in prison after pleading guilty to a conspiracy to distribute steroids in 2005, okay? But bottom line is, he directly asked Errol Spence, Ugas, and TGB Promotions if they're doing VADA. And he got frustrated because he asked a couple of times and nobody responded to him because they don't have to. And then he goes on, being complicated and saying, hey, they may be doing it, but why the secrecy? See, this is what Conte, look, if you go putting your nose in other people's business, you got to expect them to come out swinging. So he's out there saying, basically, if they're doing the testing, why aren't they letting people know? Why aren't they telling people? So then he goes on and touches base with Tim Bradley and saying, hey, can you shed some light on the situation? I respect you as a speaker in boxing, saying that Tim Bradley is the guy who's going to speak the truth. Let me tell you, you know who speaks the truth and who's not biased is Paulie Malignaggi. Tim Bradley's a bit biased in my opinion. But anyway, he starts pressing him saying, hey, is there any reason that you could think of that Errol Spence and Ugas don't want to say whether they're doing testing or not for this fight? And then Conte has the nerve, which I think is a little crazy, to say how he's a clean boxing advocate, that he believes in transparency, and is asking Tim Bradley to shed some light on the situation. Anyway, Bradley didn't respond to him at all because Bradley wasn't getting caught up in that crap. He's smart. Because Conte was on a fishing expedition is what he was, to try to hook somebody and use them as, I would say, false expert testimony to talk about VADA testing and whether he knew what was going on out there, right? But anyway, Errol Spence didn't, Bradley didn't take the bait. Errol Spence took the bait. And this is where he went on and had to tell Conte, look, that he had been testing for every fight since Kell Brook. And then he called Victor Conte a clown, said he ruined the lives and dreams of other athletes. And then those athletes' lives were ruined because they went against the athletes that he gave pets to. And Conte came back and just basically, his butt was hurt. So he said, look, much respect to Errol Spence. He had to clarifying his history with VADA. And he said, hey, look, I said that Errol Spence and Ugas may be doing it. I just wanted some transparency, which is none of his business. And he goes on to say the history of PBC boxers is not to allow VADA to be transparent. Why the secrecy? Generally, PBC boxers are not posted by VADA. And this is where Conte, in my opinion, overstepping boundaries. You know what I mean? But at the end of the time, there's nothing wrong with having a conversation. He even stresses how you get some fighters who are with Top Rank in the Zone. Look, they're all over social media that they're, being tested by VADA and random drug testing, and he just doesn't understand what's going on. But he says he feels that all athletes should be involved in the program. Now, the thing is this, right? After accepting Spence's explanation as far as saying that he's always been, involved in random testing since that Brook fight, Conte just continued to try to defend himself. But the bottom line is not many people respect Conte, Victor Conte. And he wants people to please put the rat and snitch nonsense to bed once and for all. For those unable to open the New York Times article, here is the LA Times confirmation of no cooperation by me in the Balco case against any athletes or anyone else. So Conte is trying to defend himself. But the bottom line is, Conte is still butthurt. And for those people who are aware of this interaction between Conte and Errol Spence, well, they feel like, hey, the fact that Crawford just suddenly wanted to come out here and get involved in snack. If you look at the timeline on this, people, March, April, May time frame, Conte and Spence go back and forth. Then all of a sudden, Crawford's involved in snack. He's out there training up in the mountains, wearing snack gear, promoting snack. Now, he's out there, man, you know, that thing to improve his recovery time. He's got the mask on his face and the holes, and he's training, right? So Crawford obviously had some dealings with Victor Conte. But when you start trying to snowball this into an argument that Conte used Terence Crawford to whack Errol Spence because he was pissed off that Errol Spence basically aired him out on social media. And Crawford didn't realize what was going on. That's all stupid, man. Crawford didn't realize he was being used. Let me tell you something. In this boxing game, the whole thing is to get yourself in the best shape possible and the best chance at winning a fight. Simple. People talking about Crawford doubted himself. He didn't think he was strong enough. He didn't think that he would be able to handle Errol Spence's power. Crawford out there lifting all kind of heavy weights, wrestling. Crawford out here sparring guys way bigger than him, just like Errol Spence is out here sparring guys bigger than him. Errol Spence is strong. One thing to be strong as far as, weightlifting strong than to be just, naturally strong. And I truly believe Terence Crawford is naturally stronger than Errol Spence. And I don't buy into the fact that Terence Crawford cheated. And the people who keep saying this, it may have been on some bad substance. Victor Conte knew just what to give him to fly underneath the radar so he wouldn't get caught. I don't buy into that. But what I will say, and I've said this before, in my opinion going forward, Errol Spence should get a pharmaceutical genius in his corner too. See, this is what it is, people. If Errol Spence can pick somebody up who can meet fire with fire, basically whatever strategy that Conte can come up with for Terence Crawford to improve his overall performance in the ring, he needs somebody who can do it. Errol Spence needs someone who can do that with him. There's a lot of things these guys can take that are legal that can give you the same results. People out here talking about it doesn't have to be some kind of, illegal substance or some steroid. Put it to you this way. You can go buy creatine. If you're lifting creatine, creatine can help with power, can help with muscle mass, etc. And it's totally legal and totally healthy if you take it in moderation and you know how to use it as a supplement strategy. If you don't know, then things can go left. So there has to be things on the market that these guys can take that can give you the desired results you're looking for, that would basically be pretty similar to some of these steroids. Now, I'm not saying it's all going to be the same thing as growing and boosting your testosterone the same way it will as a steroid, but I'm sure the results can be damn near close, pretty similar, right? And if you got a pharmaceutical genius in your corner, they know just what you can and can't take and what you can and can't do to achieve those results, so that you don't get caught on a VADA test or any other random drug test, because those drugs aren't illegal. Usman Sajjad went into detail about that. There's a lot of things these guys can take. There's a lot of approaches these guys can take when stacking up the supplements, man, to make sure they're going to be able to perform optimally when they get in the ring. But what I will say is this. I do think Victor Conte is a genius. I do think he knows just how to stack supplements, how to devise the proper strategy when it comes to drugs, legal, and to make sure that anyone who's working with him can get in the ring and perform at a high level. Hey, Heredia did it with Marquez, didn't he? Marquez Pacquiao, y'all remember that? Some people are saying, Caleb Plant. But look, Caleb Plant's left-handed. That's the other thing I want to argue. Caleb Plant fights in the orthodox stance, but he's naturally left-handed. He beats everybody because his left hand is his lead hand. They can't get beyond that jab and hook. Caleb Plant been knocking people out too. He's never knocked anyone out the way he knocked out Darrell. That was just one of them shots. Darrell didn't see it coming. That's what happens when you get hit with a shot you don't see. He didn't see it. That's not because Caleb Plant overnight developed this Herculean power. And Terence Crawford is right-handed and he fights southpaw. So if he throws that right-hand jab, it's going to hurt a little harder than him throwing it with his left hand. And then he throws that right hook, it's going to hurt because he's right-handed. It's going to hurt a little more than that left hand. When he throws that uppercut with that right hand, it's going to hurt a little bit more. That doesn't have nothing to do with the damn snack. You can't come and say, oh, when did he ever look like that? How about this? Oscar De La Hoya made a whole career out of beating people with his left hand, knocking them out cold. Cold. With just one hand. Oscar was a one-handed fighter his whole career. But that left hand was a problem. It was southpaw but fought orthodox. So his lead hand was a strong hand. Caleb Plant's lead hand is a strong hand. For Crawford, his lead hand is a strong hand. Miguel Cotto, his lead hand was a strong hand. And right now you got Subriel Matias up there at 140. His lead hand is a strong hand. He's left-handed, but he fights orthodox. That matters. And I'm going to tell you it matters because when I used to train and I had my little few fights, but I lived in gyms. I'm right-handed, but I fought orthodox. I just was never comfortable enough standing in an orthodox stance. Never. But I tell you what, I used to come into the ring in an orthodox stance, and then I would switch. Even when I used to shadow box and we go to do our weigh-in, we're in the locker room or wherever we're at for the weigh-ins, and you see some of the other guys in there, I would always stand in an orthodox stance and shadow box. And when I get in the ring, they didn't have no idea. And I used to, I'm not even joking, saying about me, but I have tranquilized people because they didn't know. And by the time the coach realized it was too late. During sparring, I was sparring a guy one time, and I hit him, and he froze. I mean, like a mannequin. He just froze. You know what I mean? And he had some title as, we were in the military, man, but he had some like European something champion. He was like a weight division above me, right? But he thought he was all that because he handled some business with some little local guys, and I come there on a temporary duty, and I found a boxing gym, and I'm there for like 120 days, and I'm at the boxing gym. I start sparring with those guys, and I hit him and starched him, stiff like a mannequin. And then the coach was trying to tell him he's right-handed, but he stopped the sparring because the guy he couldn't figure it out. And I was just binging him. It was that right hook. Killing him, man. Killing him. It was a 2-3. Saw that through. 2-3. Boom, bap. But the 3 was, he couldn't have me. So if I can do that, and I don't have nowhere near the training of these dudes, you can't sit here and get me to buy in to Terence Crawford may have been using some banned substance. I do think with a guy like Conte, you can get a supplement strategy that someone else can't give you. With a guy like Ariza, you can get a supplement strategy that someone else can't give you. With Usman Sajjad, with Heredia, you can get a supplement strategy that no one else can give you, and you'll fly underneath the radar because those substances aren't illegal. Okay? That being said, this stuff has to stop, man. We know there's dozens and dozens of athletes taking drugs. We know that there's so many performance enhancement drugs being supplied to fighters. We know that, and they're getting popped. Not all of them do, but some do, man. But I just think it's a reach to come and suggest that Terence Crawford was out here on some performance enhancing illegal drugs, and he just had a guy in his corner, Conte, who was able to mask what he was taking to give Crawford an advantage against Spence, and that's why Spence wasn't able to overcome the onslaught of Terence Crawford. But I'll say this. It's just styles make fights. Styles make fights, man. How come it can't be that you have the aggressive guy who's on the aggressive brawler style fighter like Spence against a master counterpuncher with heavy hands like Crawford, who throws punches from weird angles and keeps his eyes locked on his opponent the whole time and wait for you to make a mistake, and he capitalizes. Y'all got to stop talking about Crawford's never looked that fast. Spence was faster than Crawford. Spence has never looked fast. Never, ever looked fast. Don't come acting like Errol Spence was an Amir Khan. Stop it. Spence never been no guy with no super fast hands and counter-punching abilities and all that. Not in the damn ring. He comes forward, it's a mash-up, crash-up. That's what he's looking to do. He tried it with Crawford, it didn't work. So kill the noise, Victor Conte, he didn't use Terence Crawford to whack Errol Spence. Errol Spence got whacked by Terence Crawford because styles make fights, and Crawford's done that to everyone he's fought at 135, 140, especially since getting up to 147. Crawford just handled his business. It won't be no different at 154. Hold your horses. Stop taking it to the stupid. I'm in the breeze.